with his team, it's easy to have extreme views when they're not an extreme one way or the other team. Their results aren't extreme one way.
But fans want to lash out at somebody.
Yeah, I mean, because
I think it's not he's not a bad player, he's not a bad person, but I think they felt like they were promised this great talent coming up. They don't see it with him, so they're going to lash out at him as a player. And again, I'm not saying he doesn't have his issues. And should they upgrade at third base? Of course, if they can get Suarez, of course, yes, go and do it. No one would sit here and tell you otherwise. But I don't know. I just something about his defense the other day. I'm like, I don't agree with it. But
you can nitpick a little bit. But again,
of course, he's not going to be perfect at it.
But that's another thing is like if you look at all that's wrong with this team, it's not Ben Williamson's fault. I mean, I could get the people that are upset that he's been forced into playing in this role because they just didn't go out and do enough in the offseason, and they didn't, they just tried to patchwork it together and say, okay, or that they looked at a 32-year-old guy that has coming off a knee surgery and thought, okay, well, we can play him at third base every day or most days. I can understand that anger, but taking it out on the kid because he's not performing the way you want or whatever. And it's like Norman Dale and Hoosiers. This is who they are. It's not going to change. This is your team. It's not going to change till the deadline. I mean, nobody's, you want Suarez. Well, the Diamondbacks still think they have a chance. So they're not going to just dump Eugenio Suarez now. Of the teams in the big leagues that are pretty much done and out of it, the White Sox, the Rockies, although the Marlins have won 8 in a row. And then, the Orioles should be out of it, but they aren't. The Pirates are out of it. Mm-hmm. So there's 3 teams, you just can't make moves now. You can't get better right now because there's too many teams believe they have a chance. I mean, the Diamondbacks, were they 6 games out of the wild card? And the NL wild card, they believe they can overcome that. Mm-hmm. In the same, people go, why would you think that? Well, the same reason you think that the Mariners could still catch the Astros. The third wild card has evened out the playing field so much that everybody stays in it. It's like Rob Manfred's wet dream and all this stuff.
It's actually 3 back of the third.
Yeah.
3
so
back.
I mean, why would they? They're not going to sell when in this position. You've invested this much money into it. Common sense maybe tells you, oh, yeah, they're not going to, and they're pitching so beat up, and Corbin Carroll's hurt and all this stuff. But again, that's, it's hard for a GM who's spent all this time putting together a roster to just sit there and say, no, I'm done. Let's sell off.
You brought them up early. Well, and then also I think on that same notion, your partner in crime, Adam Jew, just wrote, kind of a mid-season report. What would the Mariners target at the deadline? Decisions need to be made, and the one name that got everybody's was Alex Bregman. Would the Red Sox, because what they did with Devers, would they consider moving Alex Bregman? But I would throw, I'd like to know what the Red Sox thinking is right now. Yeah. They're 2.5 games out of the third wild card.
Yeah.
They're not, and now they've made that youth movement, and they could still keep Bregman on. Obviously, he's dealing with the injury, but they could still keep him on. Most likely he's going to opt out no matter what.
Yeah.
At the end of the season. But, yeah, for sure. They're not out of it. The Rangers are 2.5 games back. They're not out of it. You can leave the Guardians as well. They're 3 back of that third wild card spot. What would be the most demoralizing thing this year for the Mariners? One, to me, I think the most demoralizing thing is they can't win the division. They can't win the division this year with the way that team ahead of them, the Astros, was constructed, and then all the injuries that they had. All of them. Losing their best power hitter, the injuries to their pitching staff, all of them. That's embarrassing if they can't win the division. If somehow the Angels, and you just brought up the Angels with what they're doing down there, if they somehow, they're a game and a half back of them.
I know.
If they catch the Mariners and get that third wild card spot, how fast can you get the USS Mariner barge to get the whole front office out of town?
That's the thing is
how soon could we put everyone on that?
Do you think that the front office feels pressure to win right now? Because it's so weird.
I don't know.
We thought last year was if they didn't win it, they weren't going to be here. But, I don't know. It's so weird how honestly, I've been covering that team for I've been covering this team for 20 years, and I don't really know how the ownership works. Now, this is a different ownership group, but like understanding them sometimes, like the one under Howard Lincoln and stuff, they were afraid to tear it down and rebuild. They always just kind of wanted to patch it together and just be good enough. And this one seems to be the same way, but not willing to spend to do that. You know, that they're I think I've called them risk averse. You know, that they want to win, but they don't have the courage to do what it takes to win. You know, the ownership groups. But I don't know. It's just like, what would they do if they don't make it? You know, would they clean house? I mean, and sure, and Stanton's thinking is like, well, all these guys, we have all these pieces here. That's Jerry put them together, so why would we do that? But I don't know. You know, part of it
that's
is.
What I'm saying. Do you get any sense of that though at all?
No,
is there any
I don't.
sense of just of who you talk to, that, you know, Adam and Tim and these guys, or all your baseball, you know, voices and people that your connections? I mean, is there any sense that if they fail this year, that they would make any type of changes? Because I'll be honest, I'm kind of like you. I think they'd run it back again.
I do too. I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again. No, because again, like, for as much as like people say they're never going to go to games and everything like that, you know, these games this weekend, even against the Pirates, when it's going to be hot and nice out, there are going to be a lot of people there.
Of course.
No, there will be. You know, that you've seen some of these games on the Fridays, and whether or not they have, irrespective of it's just like bobbleheads or whatever, they're still drawing. I don't think they're drawing at the pace they did last year. Right. They're still drawing. And if this team is in it, you know, if they're playing meaningful baseball in the last July, August, and September, they'll have numbers, you know? And so it's like, you know, fans can sit there and say all this and I'm boycotting this and that. Mariners and most sports owners know that not to be true. Yeah. That if you're competitive enough and if you're if you're in it and you have a chance, most fans will still show up because they care that much about the team.
At some time, though, but an ownership, though, just, I mean, now they've probably lost all good graces with this fan base, but at some point, if you don't do anything this year, how can you, after John Stanton and this ownership group, look at anyone and talk about your goal is to win the World Series?
Oh, I know.
Your goal is to be a championship contending team, because, you know, last two off seasons, they didn't do anything. And then once again, we're in year 10, and this was supposed to be the year that they all talked about as they continue to push the goal, you know, move the goalpost down. This was going to be the year, and they shouldn't be in this position. They shouldn't be 44 and 41 in this division, of all divisions.
Yeah. The Bregman thing is interesting, like you mentioned that. Like, does keeping him around for the rest of the season, even knowing that he's going to opt out, give you a better chance of signing him? I mean, because they just wiped 250 off the books with Devers. Can they just take the 250 that they had for Devers and say, hey, look, why don't we just give this to you?
Well, what is he? I guess that Bregman at his age. I mean, they're all competitors, right? Is he chasing rings right now? Is he chasing more of that parachute contract to end it? And he loves hitting there, and he's got great success there. If I were him, I wouldn't go anywhere else.
Well, I mean, he's just got $25 million this year, right, for playing 1 year, essentially. Yeah. I think it's,
you can get even more,
25 or 30. Yeah, I don't remember what it is, but like they get even like, if 35 maybe.
Well, but I think it was a 3-year 120 deal, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, so 40. So then, like, all I have to say is, hey, look, opted out, but we'll give you this. You know, they could backload it, because that's another thing. Like, and I know you mentioned this with Duquette. There's a lockout coming, and the salary structure of now it might not necessarily affect Alex Bregman, but if they somehow sneak in some level of a salary cap or something like that, I think you want to be grandfathered in under the current CBA
yes.
than the next CBA. So don't dick around, get your money while you can, you know. And realistically, you look at the young base of the Red Sox, it's pretty good. Like, they're super athletic and they can really run. Like, be that guy. You know, be the leader of that team. And he has that kind of quality. Like, if I'm the Red Sox, we're going to keep him around. We're going to try and do everything we can. And, like, does keeping him around and not dealing him at the deadline make it easier or somehow help you? I mean, I know he's a Boris guy, so who knows? But that's
and then the other thing you brought, like, we go back to Suarez and talking about him and Duquette, as you brought Duquette up, is that, I mean, one is Arizona. They don't feel that they're out of it, and they're not. And then number two is, it's not like the Mariners are the only team that need a right-hand hitting bat that mashes.
No, I mean, like, you can go down the list of contenders, and the thing is like, now he's in the final year of his deal, so it's $2 million. It's 2 months, 2 months of the prorated salary. I mean, that's not a ton for a team to take on, and like, make the pay it out for that much. Same with Naylor, who's a ARB eligible guy. Like, getting those guys for the last couple of months of the season, it's an investment. It's basically a mercenary. You're bringing them in to try and win. But yeah, like Yankees. I'm trying to look at who else that would do it. The Cubs. Cubs don't really. They're playing Matt Shaw as the third baseman, I believe. There are teams that would do it. Hell, the Astros would do it. The Mariners have the best prospects to get the best return.
Sure.
So if you're a GM and if you're Mike Hazen in Arizona, you're saying, well, okay, we're going to do this, so we want the best prospects. The Mariners have the best prospects. You can ask the most from them. You never know. The Yankees in their quest to do this, they don't really give a shit about their prospects in a lot of ways. Like, obviously they're not going to trade George Lombard, their best guy, but like, they'll dump a guy, or they'll get some, they'll do something to go over the top to get a guy if they have to.